Welcome to it, sports fans. And hey, this is, by the way, this is my name over here. That's my name. That's me. Trying to get the finger thing right. That is me. Mbulelo Tinta. And probably the time to tell you that this show is now called the MKT Show. Let's go. Told you there was a name change coming. And what good would it be if I was an egocentric guy who just gave an opinion all the time, if I didn't have my own show with my own name? So the MKT Show, welcome to it. It is the MKT Show, and I'm that MKT. I'm the person that the show is named after, and I named the show. The MKT Show, welcome to it, folks. So we'll be rebranding. Look out for that. We'll be rolling that out slowly but surely. I am MKT. I'm joined by Dave LaRue, who you can't hear, but he is the man that makes all of this possible. Good evening to you, Dave. Good evening to you at home. Tonight, we're going to chat a little bit of international football. Should we still have it? Shouldn't we have it? I mean, what's going on there? And then I told you, right? It's coming up. I told you that we're going to launch our FPL tonight. We'll launch it. We'll talk a little bit about it. I'll give you the password. Be a friend, tell a friend. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, like, share. And I imagine right now we've got a few extra people joining us from the surfing community. And, you know, which is quite gnarly. That's what we say in the surf community, because I'm so embedded in that community, you know. Well, tonight we got someone who's for real in the community. One of the greatest South African sports people to ever live. And she's still only 26. It's ridiculous. Bianca Buitendag. That is going to be awesome, right? She's from a place that probably has like 42 people max, and that's including the dogs. And she's got like 6 of them. It's like the population is 42. But a world champion, somebody who she's done it at the highest level for now a decade. And she's still only 26. Bianca, cannot wait to chat to her. Former junior world champ and now doing her thing. I mean, being top 10, it's actually ridiculous. She's been so consistent for a decade. An Olympian next year. Really, really looking forward to chatting to her. But let's start off with this. By the way, CliffCentral Sport, you can go and subscribe, like, share, Instagram. Of course, we are on the tweet machine, CC Sport. Otherwise, YouTube, of course, CliffCentral Sport. Make sure you are a friend. Be a friend, tell a friend. There it is, CliffCentral Sport on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and then, of course, Cliff C Sport on the Tweet Monster. Right, let's get to it. So last night, I watched the most... I watched the second half. It is the most boring football game I've ever watched. It is the most boring football game I've ever watched. I've never watched anything this boring. It is more boring than toast and eggs. Like white bread with toast. Yeah, toasted white bread and eggs. That's the most boring meal I can imagine in the world. That's what this game was. Dry toast, no butter. You know, if you don't have butter, your bread gets wet. Like it was that. It was terrible. Damp squib. Awful. Absolutely awful. Now, international football and myself have an interesting relationship. The only reason I watched last night was I wanted to see if Gareth Southgate was doing anything different. You know, I work in the biz. I got to know what's going on in this world. It was awful to watch. Number one, why can't England drop Harry Kane? But okay, let's leave that. Makes no sense. Danny Ings is the best striker in England this season. Pick on form. But let's leave it there. I'm going to go back to an argument I have always had. And I'll tell you the dilemma international football have. I'm pretty sure you've been near somebody who thinks they're smart. And they'll always say, you know, like platitudes, right? And they'll always say, oh, sport is a microcosm of society, bro. That's if you're South African, of course. I mean, if you're not South African, no one talks like that. But sport is a microcosm of society. And I say, hey, dumb guy, you're right on this occasion. And if you're right, let's go with the dumb guy. It's sport is a microcosm of society. If sport is a microcosm of society, we're seeing in the very real world, right, our economic systems and our governance systems in a quite brutal divorce. Because for the very first time in modern history, right, in all of our government systems, and governments don't know what to do, they're always reactionary, is that for the first time, whilst government's power remains local, right, the economy has gone global. I can do business with you in America, in Australia, in Thailand, and you pay me on PayPal, no tax. Right? Like they can't trace that. I can get Bitcoin. You can pay me in Bitcoin. So the power is local, but the economy is global. And we can see that in football. Here's what I mean by that. There are more teams now that are clubs that could win the World Cup than international teams. I'm going to let that one sink in for a little bit. There are more teams now that are clubs that could win a World Cup than international football teams. What that means is I mean, a football club's 300 people. If we were going to do it like a country of 300 people is better than Brazil. That's like 60 million people, or like 200 million people, sorry. Tottenham is more likely to win a World Cup and has more resources and is better structured to go and win a World Cup than Brazil. I've said it. Now, cancel international football. Two things are clear. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Because for friendlies, how often are players pulling out? And you can't make money with international tournaments. The only people who care about the World Cup still, I'm sorry, is FIFA. I've always said it. Premier League, Champions League, and then the rest. Premier League, Champions League, and then the rest. Because the Premier League is the toughest tournament in the world. There is no tougher tournament than the Premier League in the world. That's why the greatest stars go there. That's why the deal is £7 billion. The next deal is going to be it's going to be 8 billion. That's why everybody pays for the Premier League. FIFA are struggling to sell World Cup rights all the time. There's always rights left on the table. It's over. Cancel international football. Because you can't monetize it. And when you can't monetize it, you can't pay the best talent to be in the house all the time. We don't need all these friendlies. Do you know what they are? I want one football fan to tell me that an international game in the middle of the season isn't a distraction. You're like, oh, it's an international break. Oh, headache. I've never, ever heard a football fan go, oh, it's the middle of the season. Great. Oh, it's a bonus. We've got international football. That's a bonus. And people might say, oh, you're South African. Your team have been nonsense since 1997. That's why you said this. It's not true. There is no international tournament that is equal to the Premier League, to La Liga, to Serie A. There are more clubs that could win a World Cup than countries. So if the standard's lower, why am I watching that? And it's quite a bit lower. It's considerably lower. International football's a waste. Just cancel it. And I'll tell you the challenge. I'll say it once more. Power is still local. So the FAs, the English FA, the most powerful FA in the world, arguably, all they can do is control local football, local roots football. You know who saw it a long time ago was the Premier League. Right? The Premier League is a private business. The FA have no say there. What's the biggest product in the world? The biggest business in the world is the Premier League. Football is the biggest business on earth. Now, maybe not commercially, that'll catch up. But there is no business in the world like football. The Premier League saw it. Is FA, get the hell out the way. No one cares. You can look after the English team. No one cares about the Three Lions. Who cares? No one cares about the Salacao anymore. It's not 1994. We care about Neymar. We care about David Luiz. We care about Douglas Costa. That's who we care about, the individual stars. And they play at Bayern Munich, at Juventus, at Chelsea, at Arsenal. If international football was so great, you know where Edu would be working? At Sao Paulo. Right? He'd be working for Brazil. You know where Marcelo Bielsa would be coaching? He'd be coaching Argentina again. The money's in club football now. It's the best product. People, this is the mistake people always make. People always say, oh, the World Cup's the biggest tournament in the world. And this happens in life all the time. Personally, I'm a minimalist, right? Or as close as you can get. I don't care about being the biggest. I care about being the best. Because if you're the best, then you can be the biggest. Being the biggest doesn't mean you're the best. And we've seen this problem. I don't want to go over it again. Nikon, Nokia, BlackBerry, they thought, oh, we're the biggest, so we're the best. Uh-oh. Toyota, they're seeing it now. We're the biggest, we're the best. No, Tesla. You got to be the best and you can become the biggest. Tesla's the biggest motoring company in the world. It's certainly not the biggest. Be the best, not the biggest. International football forgot that. No one cares if you're the biggest. And essentially, in the world we live in with sophisticated consumption, is give me the best. Right? How do we watch now? I want to watch on my phone when I want to watch. Not when TV tells me when to watch. Not when radio tells me when to watch. I podcast now. So why do football think they're immune? Just because it's the biggest product in the world doesn't make it the best. We're not stupid anymore. We're not forced to watch that anymore. In Thailand, you couldn't imagine watching Premier League 15 years ago. Here we are today. FIFA hasn't caught up. Cancel international football. It's a joke. No one cares. Listen, here's my proposal, right? Every single tournament you have every 4 years is the qualification tournament for whatever's next. I mean, it's World Cup, Euros, and then you go and play. You don't need international football. It's a waste. Cancel all of it. It's a waste. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Hey, Dave, if we've got one or two questions before we head over to Bianca, maybe you can throw them up on screen and I'll take them. And then we will go to our guest. I just saw a comment, I think, from The Rig. I happen to only watch international football, so at least one person cares. Well, The Rig, I mean, that is outrageous. That is absolutely outrageous. So, listen, I told you that we were going to launch the fantasy football today. So, be a friend, tell a friend. We're here now. FPL is here. It is, let's do it. Right, so you can play against me, and there will be prizes. To be clear, I know people like prizes. They like to be rewarded. There's the password, N1IHEH. So lowercase N1IHEH. The 1 is a number. I'll say that again. N1IHEH. That's the password. Join us, the MKT Show FPL. Play against me. For the winner, because we don't play for second place here. We don't play for second place. I'm not a child. I'm a grown-up. There will be prizes. So if you win, everybody else, I don't care. We're going to treat this like a marriage, right? It's like if you have girlfriends along the way, no one cares. They all lost. It only matters who you marry. All right? We don't care about who's second and no, I dated so-and-so. Who cares? We only care about winners. If you win, there will be a prize. Now, the prize may be rubbish. I didn't say the prize will be good, but there will be a prize for the winner. Dave, give us the details one more time. The MKT Show FPL. Can you defeat me? I doubt it. I got to be honest. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. The password, MKT Show FPL. Go and search it. The password, lowercase n, the number 1, lowercase I, HEH. All the letters are lowercase. I cannot wait to get it going. I can't believe it's football, by the way. Both versions of football back this week. I'm a Minnesota Vikings nut. We're less than 24 hours away. Kirk Cousins, can he do it? He says, Kirk Cousins said, if I die, I die. That's what those are his thoughts on coronavirus. Insane. Slightly taken out of context, but that's crazy. NFL back tomorrow. Premier League is back this weekend, people. I am unavailable. I am unavailable. To the 2 people who actually do like me and phone me and WhatsApp me, I am unavailable. From now until about next year, July, I'm out of commission. Premier League, NFL, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot wait. FPL, jump on it. Winner, the winner, not the winners. There can only be one winner. Hey, people, winning isn't everything. It's the only thing. And coming up, we got somebody who's been winning for the last, I don't know. She's probably been winning her whole life. You know, you don't get to this level without winning. Winners win. And coming up is a serious, serious winner. Ladies and gentlemen, join us after this. We got a world champ in the house. Alrighty. We are back. Listen, I don't want to waste any time. Dave, let's introduce our guest. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing, coming out of Victoria Bay, the wunderkind of all wunderkinds. She's been catching right-handers since she could walk. It is my absolute pleasure to bring you one of the greatest sports people to ever come out of South Africa. Possibly has Wi-Fi in Victoria Bay. Maybe the only person in the history of that region to have Wi-Fi at this stage. Not sure if she's heard of TikTok. What she's heard of is dominating the surfing scene. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rose of Victoria Bay, Bianca Buitendag. Let's go. Let's go. Bianca, what's happening?
Hi, Woude. Thank you so much for having me on your show this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure. Big pleasure. Happy to be here.
Hey, Bianca, I thought I'd impress you with every now and then. I'll just throw in a bit of, because I'm part of the surfing community. I'll throw in a bit of surfing lingo. So, were you catching any right-handers today? Just a bit
I
of
was
surf
catching
talk.
some left-handers today. Just a bit of surf talk, a bit of chit-chat.
Yeah, just a little. Okay, shredding the left-handers, eh? Shredding. How you like that one?
You're teaching me a trick or two here.
Yeah, I mean, what you gonna do? You know, listen. If I do get a bit surf talky, you know, don't be shy to kind of just say, hey, slow down on the surf talk. You know, it can get confusing because I'm so ingrained in the community.
If I struggle to understand, I'll let you know.
Oh, awesome. Hey, Bianca, awesome to have you here, man. Do you know what's incredible is, first of all, you live in are you from Victoria Bay, or do you just live there now? Were you born there? I mean, let's go through this whole thing.
So I'm a bit ashamed to let you know that I was born in Johannesburg, which is obviously landlocked in the middle of South Africa, and then moved to the Strand, which is also not a very picturesque surf destination. And then eventually my parents made their way to Victoria Bay when I was in high school. So not originally from here.
Wait a minute. When did you start surfing?
At a young age. I would say around 6 or 7 years old. It was more of a metamorphosis. I was almost born into it. I don't remember the day I started, and I don't think I will remember the day I stopped. So it's kind of just grown into it.
So now you're like full-time Victoria Bay, huh?
Mm-hmm. Proud Vic Bay.
What's the story there? Oh yeah, what you got fiber going there? How are you guys getting? Are you fire signals? How are you guys communicating with the world?
We definitely don't have fiber. I recently got off the phone with an internet provider, and he let me know that there's a tree in between the line that's supposed to reach Vic Bay is obstructed by a tree. So that's why our internet is lacking. I'm actually quite surprised this line is still strong enough.
Unbelievable. So a tree is standing between you and the 21st century. It's a great story. I mean, so listen, let me tell you about something that'll come out probably in Vic Bay next year. You know, I don't want to bash the place you live. I just want to prepare you to succeed. You've done incredible things so much. Listen, TikTok, huge thing. By the way, when that comes around, don't be shocked. Huge. It's gone massive around the world. By the time it gets to you guys, I don't want you to be overwhelmed. TikTok, massive. So keep an eye out.
Thanks for the heads up.
No worries. When it gets there, it could be quite gnarly for you. A little more surf talk, but anyway. So listen, Bianca, you know, it's so interesting to me with you sort of being an athlete in South Africa. I kind of understand South Africa in a certain context. You know, I grew up in your classic schooling system. So around me, it's like boys play soccer, girls play netball, athletics, tennis, or hockey. So what was it that went surfing for you? Was that something you chose? Were you pushed into that? You kind of alluded to it at the beginning. Was it ever an option that you could play hockey or whatever? Or because we know in South Africa, right, we're quite a conservative community. Is girls this, boys this?
Yes, that is very true. I actually grew up doing all the school sports that existed. My mom signed me up for everything to keep me busy and get me exhausted during the day. I grew up with two brothers, so I think she was a bit sick of us. So she made us do all the sport possible. And I only really got into surfing competitively or seriously maybe towards 15 years, 16 years old, while I was still doing other school sports. So it was kind of integrated in the whole school sports schedule. But it was the only sport that I never got bored of. So I guess that answers your question.
Yeah, listen, that's fair enough. So tell me something. I mean, generally, you obviously being world class now, we're going to get to sort of that end. But surely, even as a youngster, there's always a trait in champions, and I guess in other sports. How old are your brothers? Are they older or younger than you?
So I'm stuck in the middle. I've got an older brother who's 2 years older than me, and I've got a younger brother who's 2 years younger than me. But they're both a head taller than me, so competition was tough growing up. I had to fend for myself, fight upwards and downwards. But
wow.
I think that's what ignited this competitive spirit, amongst other things. So yes, I do hold them accountable for my competitive drive.
Good for you. Listen, good for you, number one. But when did it become awkward? Because you didn't become world class at like 17 when you started to do insane things on the surf tour. There must have been like a spurt where you started to see like, oh no, I'm a little bit different, because every time I compete with other people, they usually lose and I usually win. And when did that start becoming clear to you that it was like, oh no, I'm quite good at the sports thing?
So ironically, they actually surf much better than I do. I just think my temperament or my personality suited the competitive structure a bit better. So, and because they were at that point, there were less female competitors in events and stuff. So I think it was easier for me initially, but they surfed better than me outright.
Yeah, and see, that's a very interesting thing that you're saying. It's like, so for you personally, right, is when did you start to realize, because there must have come a time when, okay, you would classify yourself in a sort of female surfing. There must have come a time when it's like, oh, wow, I'm staying out longer than others. And then competitions, you started like, oh no, wait, what's going on here? Everybody else is much worse than I am. I seem to be what you might call a champion. Was that a conversation for your parents? Were you driven from home? Was it the brother thing? Who drove you to this level? Because champions aren't born at 15, 16. The competition with your brothers and sisters, I'm sure with your brothers was rough. But was that something inside of you where you were just like, I'm competitive, I have to win?
I think at a very young age that might have been. But I feel like the whole pathway to professional sport happened very naturally. It wasn't a decision that I made at a point. It was one consequence or one opportunity that led to the next. But I do remember being like 12 or 13 years old, and after having lost the heat against like 20-year-old girls, I would throw such a tantrum. I'd lock myself in the bathroom for the entire day. So that immature competitive spirit was definitely present, but I did grow out of that, fortunately. But as I said, it was a more natural journey than it was a decisive or a forced choice.
You know, I love to do research on successful people, and I know to some people that might sound like, oh, what, they might label you whatever, but that's what it takes, like, to be at your level, to be in the 1%. At 12 already, you were complaining that you were losing to 20-year-olds. You can't teach that. I'm sorry, and I know you're going to be humble about it, but that is just not something where you can get a PhD for that drive. I mean, at 12, I mean, you're not even. You're a child, but you're going, those 20-year-olds, I'm going to get them. Man, I love success, especially the grind behind it. So that is so awesome for me. Now, before we get into, obviously, the career path, so I mean, it must be a pretty warped world for you, because you just dominating out there. But also that comes with other things, right? It comes with fame. It comes with whatever it comes with. And I guess you would have to embrace it and have a strong team. But I've always wondered, because I don't have an ounce of talent in anything, is what's it like for you to be world class? Because everybody always asks the people that are the brother or the sister of like, hey, what's the famous sibling like? But I've always wondered, for you, as you know, you've achieved to the level you've achieved to, what's it like for you with family relations and having to kind of manage those relationships when you're on the road? Do you kind of feel like you had to manage your family, or are they just supportive? Because I've seen what fame can do to family structures and friendships.
No, so I'm very fortunate to have a very supportive family. My father or my mother came to most events up until the age of, I think, 19. So they really made an effort to be involved in that. And I think I wouldn't have survived it as well as I did without their support and without their presence at the events. And with my brothers, it was a bit more difficult, as I was on the road from 14, 15 years old. So really young, and you kind of miss out on the regular childhood. But obviously, since you're missing it, you don't really know what to compare it to. But I definitely feel that being on the road from a super, super young age continuously does take its toll. But luckily now, having more time at home, I've got the chance to invest more time into those relationships that were previously previously didn't have that much time to invest in.
Yeah, that's because you were busy dominating the world surfing scene. Mine was just because I wasn't a good family member. Our stories are very, very different. Very, very different. I was out boozing around the world. And then, so our stories are very different. Look, you know who it's the roughest for? Let me just tell you, as an older brother. So I have a younger sister who's incredibly talented, speaks multiple languages, did her master's in France, in French, like ridiculous, right? So she was always my sister. And then everyone started seeing, oh, no, wait, this guy's a clown. Now I became her brother. So were you always introduced that, hey, this is, who's your older brother? Is that Sven or is that Daniel?
That's Sven, yes.
Yeah, so it was always like, hey, guys, have you seen Sven's sister? Now it must be awkward for Sven. It's like, hey, what's it? Bianca's brothers are back in town. That is awkward, by the way. It happened to me.
To their defense, they are both extremely talented, just not maybe in the sporting direction. But I do get introduced as Sven and Daniel's sister quite a lot, more than I would like to.
Oh, yeah, might as well cancel Bianca. So let's be honest. You live in Victoria Bay. I mean, population, I said it before, population 46. That's including the 6 dogs that you've got. From young, when everybody started seeing, oh, no, we've got a wunderkind on our hands here, and we're going to get to exactly what we mean by that, is surely around the age of 14, 15, every single sort of 14, 15-year-old was being proposed to you as a marriage kind of thing. Did that happen to you? Because if I lived there, I'd be like, oh my goodness, that doesn't happen often. Stephen.
I'm really enjoying these Afrikaans stereotypes because they're actually quite accurate.
Yeah, tell us the story. Hey, let's get into it.
No,
right?
No, I wouldn't.
Let's get into it.
I'm not gonna spill all my beans, but yay! So I'll tell you. I'll let you in on one story. So my grandparents are very Afrikaans. I consider myself a bit more liberal, but not really. But my grandparents are very Afrikaans, and they've always, surfing is not really a sport for them, or was. Maybe after I've explained the kind of situation to them, they understood it a bit better. But they wanted a Springbok netball athlete. They didn't really sign up for the surfing thing. And the one day my grandfather was at the pharmacy waiting for, I don't know, his prescription or whatever. And he finds this young athletic-looking guy that obviously played rugby because of the kind of attire that he was wearing at that point. And he made sure that he introduced himself and kind of sold me to the poor boy that was sitting next to him at the pharmacy. And I managed to get a message from this guy a week later. So I think it was more my family trying to sell me off to some professional or semi-professional rugby blokes at a young age, more than it was having my hand asked in marriage, if I could say it in that
Makes
way.
sense. Makes sense. Wow, I didn't even know that was a real. Listen, it makes sense to me. It's like if we like I told you, you wouldn't know it, but when you see special talent, that can't hide. Especially in a place like Vic Bay, it's like there's 15 people, including the hedgehogs. It's like, oh my goodness, that person is gonna do something incredible. So good for you, man. Good for you. And so are you? Go ahead.
I'm breaking boundaries. I'm breaking boundaries in the Afrikaans culture because I'm 26 and unmarried. So I'm very proud of that fact.
Are we working on that? Is there somebody in the picture? I mean, is that something you can discuss? Because is there somebody in the area who's got a chance? I mean, listen, you're a world champion. We got to know if you're on the market or not.
So unfortunately, I have been off of the market for a few years, but not. I kind of got linked up with a French man and not an Afrikaans or a local guy. But don't worry, I'm reeling him in. He's going to be a South African very, very soon.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
All in favor of reeling them in.
Unbelievable. So she goes and dominates the surf scene, and then she's too good for us. Unbelievable. What do they say down there? Kan nie dit glo nie, as they say, hey?
Your accent's actually quite good.
Hey, what not much talent, but Yeah, listen, I practiced for like 6 hours. I heard you Afrikaans. Hey, but you went to an English school. Good for you.
I did.
Tell us about that. Or was that like
So, first day of school, grade 1, I couldn't speak a word of English, so I think the English school did do me well. I still mix up tenses, so I'm apologizing in advance because I never realize when I should apologize afterwards because it all just feels and sounds good to me, but obviously not to the audience. So if I do mix up tenses, apologies. But yeah, the first year of school, I didn't speak a word of English, and I progressed from there. And then my parents decided to put me into an Afrikaans high school. So by the time I reached 13, I was kind of switched back into the Afrikaans setting. But
listen,
I survived.
Yeah, they were hoping, it's like, hey, hopefully she'll meet a frickie. And now here comes Jean-Pierre. I mean, ruining it for everyone. Listen, I'm acid. As a South African guy, I'm so acid for all of the guys and the 6 eligible bachelors that are in Victoria Bay. So, I'm so sorry, guys. I am on your side. # I stand with you. But hey, good for you. This is very, very good. So listen, let's, by the way, please don't apologize, because to anybody who is judging that, it's like, when you can go and dominate the world scene of anything, even a crossword puzzle, then we can apologize to you. You have no reason to apologize. You have put the South African flag firmly on the map, whether in Afrikaans or in English. Let's go back to the beginning now. Hey, come on, you're doing it. I mean, geez, listen, probably move that tree and get some fiber, but I mean, hey, we can get to that. You can't be good at everything. Just says move the tree. It's unbelievable. You can go and win a world tour, surf tour, but you can't move a tree. Unbelievable. So let's go back to the beginning, man. On a very serious note, because now we're talking about what brings home the bacon and where the drive sort of, probably your drive and hours of practice and everything, the support from the structures all came together was at the age of 17 when you really, I mean, you went and won the World Juniors at 17 years old. That's absolutely unbelievable. Talk to me about, was that a year where you cranked up the focus and the training? What was it that came together for you to be able to, at 17, go and sort of dethrone the world and win that juniors?
So it's not what you would believe. I was at that event specifically. Obviously, we were on a South African budget, and my father was with me at that point, and we were actually camping at that event, and I was the only participant camping because the accommodation was so expensive. So I think it was more just the drive to get out of the campsite into some white linen that fueled that win. but I think after that, so that event kind of made me decide to pursue surfing for at least a year after school, because obviously, again, Afrikaans culture really wants you to get a real job or go to study at Stellenbosch University. So that was kind of on the cards, and then that event convinced my parents to then give me a year to pursue the career, and if it didn't work out, then to revert to the traditional Afrikaans way of growing up.
Hey, awkward conversation. 17, conservative family, female, you know, because the archetype is school, married by 25, 3 kids, a dog, and we moved to the farm, I'd imagine. Awkward convo here to have is I'm 17, I'm a world champ in what you might call off the beaten track, as you said, with surfing. What did you have to talk to your parents about? Hey, I want to stop school. What were your thoughts? Because you're 17. It's like, hey, I'm really good at this. I love this. I want to do it now. Or did you say, okay, I'm happy to go after school and try it for a year?
So I was more on the side of actually going to study. I thought surfing, I enjoyed it, but I never really could imagine a career in it. So my parents are not unconventional in a sense. So my mom, if you meet her, you'll know she's very outgoing, liberal to how far you can be liberal in the Afrikaans culture. My dad was also quite offbeat in a sense where he wouldn't regard himself as Afrikaans. Not that Afrikaans is an issue, but I'm just trying to explain the background of the culture. But they pushed me to go and take a year off or take a year to pursue sport as a career, where I was leaning more towards the traditional. Since my friends were all going to study, my brothers were at the university as well. So I was leaning more towards that route, and they convinced me to take a chance.
Amazing. Hey, once again, here we go. Here I am sharing something with a world-class athlete, because I was supposed to take like 1 or 2 years off to kind of explore myself as well. I took a 10-year gap period. It went from a gap year to a gap period. So we're quite similar in that.
I'm on 8 years.
Go ahead.
I'm on 8 years. We're on the
we
same
could
boat,
do a face swap. Yeah, we could do a face swap with the same person. With the same person. We really, really. That's incredible that your parents. Oh, sorry. Move the tree first. Yeah. Sorry, I forget that. All right. Sorry. That'll come with TikTok. See, I got ahead of it. That was, yeah. Jeez, no good. So, sorry. Some of the technical talk will be not only surfing. Yeah, I'll say stuff like fiber every now and then. You know, internet.
Fiber,
I'll probably say that.
Just go to town.
So obviously, oh, you just go to town. Oh, the big town for the big shop, huh? Victoria Bay. How many people? How many people? Like
actually
11. Like a
I'm not too sure. So I like to say I'm from Victoria Bay because George, which is the closest town, is quite an industrial town, and it has. I think Victoria Bay has a more pleasant reputation, but Vic Bay, I guess, only has 8 houses, and then like 5 of them on top of the hill. So I would 1 in 13 households. I
wow.
Guess. Very close to George. So I'm actually from George.
Oh, George, a great airport. Great airport.
Great airport. 2 carousels.
Great airport. Great airport. Listen, I love airports where give me my ID, I'm the hell out of here. I don't like this big airport, especially now in COVID times. People are just, the best. George, the best. Love the airport. Otherwise, hey, and great mountains out there. But now it's like living in Dirty Dancing, huh? So the boys have to come down for the big dance. It's crazy. This is a crazy, hey, but exactly Vic Bay, special place.
It is exactly that.
So talk to me about the first year on tour. When you guys got going, 17, 18, you finished school. You know, you do the thing. Awesome. You're driven. And now it's about going on tour. I mean, do these two, I'll let you introduce the 2 characters that probably came into your life. And I'd imagine they came in through surfing. And then the one became your coach. Did they come into your life afterwards? Or talk to us about Matthias and the other special lady you spent the first year of tour with. And when was that? At 18, huh?
Before that, actually, I met Joanne and Matthias when I was 14 years old. So they've come a long way alongside the whole progression. So I met Joanne when I was 14. That's ridiculous. And then Matthias, I met him at 14, but then at 17, when I eventually signed with Quicksilver in Europe, that he became the brand kind of team manager. So I was obviously in the team, and Joanne was in the team as well at that point. But I'd known Joanne for a good couple of years before that. So then we did the qualifying series together, which is a bit of a roller coaster, both emotionally and all other aspects. And doing that together did really create a big sense of camaraderie, and we established our own little trio, which then led to me qualifying and then her qualifying, and then Matthias continued being my coach or team manager up until the last year of tour, so a long time. So I consider them as my family more than as just tour friends.
That's incredible. So, I mean, at 18, your family can't come with you everywhere. I mean, they have stuff to do. They got to earn a living. They got to raise 2 other boys and I'm sure be around their parents. Talk to me about something which I would always find interesting is, sometimes we look at sportsmen and women and we go, oh, you've got lots of money. That makes you bulletproof. But 17, 18, you're still really a child. The world hasn't come at you yet. When you were on the tour, and as a man, I have to see the world a different way. Being a 17, 18-year-old young lady, I would imagine emotionally, your body is still growing. Was that really a difficult time to be away from home, or did you really just drill in on the surfing? Like emotionally, I mean, you're still growing. It's the end of puberty. It must be a tough time.
It is, but I guess having started so young, by 18, you're almost a veteran in a weird sense. So you know where you're going, you know your way through every airport, how jet lag works, the time zone differences. So you're pretty much a veteran by the age of 18. So I would say the difficult part came earlier. But difficult, always have to put it into perspective. So difficult in that sense is nothing compared to what most people face, whether it's that age or later in life. So what I would like to add is also having a supportive family or network of friends, and then having both Joanne and Matthias by my side, sitting next to me in the economy class seats during every trip. So I think that if I had to be alone, completely alone, it would have been a bit more challenging. So very grateful to have had them alongside me during that crazy episode of my life.
And that's awesome. So it's so easy for most of us in life to have a good year at work. I mean, we can relate it to normal people. A good year, a good 6 months, a good, if we struggle in a relationship, we turn it around for 3 months. But there's a difference to we do it for a year to you've been doing it for close on a decade, like a decade. That's proper. That's not, we're not mucking about now. Anyone can get there. The hardest part is staying there. Talk to me as a youngster. I know how easy it is to be distracted because we're impressionable. Just because you're a world-class surfer, I'm pretty sure you saw things. You're like, oh, I should do that. Was it that core team with Matthias who helped you make the right decisions to stay on top and focus on surfing? What was it that kept you grounded? Because I'm sure you saw people just as talented as you. What was it that you'd say made you choose the right things over the wrong things consistently enough to stay at the top?
So having led that lifestyle, it maybe comes across as very, how do I say it, flamboyant, free, etc. But in reality, it's very structured, disciplinary. You are actually kind of removed from every normal thing that a teenage girl would be exposed to, or every normal thing that a young adult would be exposed to. You're removed from it in order to perform in competition. So most of the time, you're in bed at 8:30. You've got training session after training session. So you are unaware of all the regular or fun things that you could have been involved with or in, or so the kind of how they portray an athlete's life to be like is very different than the reality.
And so, once again, and I know you might give the humble answer, but I'm so fascinated by greatness. When you get there, it's like everyone's good now, right? You're not now at the local competitions. Now you're on tour. It's clear you're part of the elite. But then you get there and you start to separate yourself. Is that because you started training harder? Or was that competitive fire coming out in you? What I'd like to know is, tell me, what do your hours look like? Because I'm sorry, nobody in the world, you can be lucky to get there. Nobody in the world stays at the top without grinding their backside off. Talk to me about off season. What do your days look like? Are we talking 8-10 hours out in the water training yoga? Like, what does that look like for a champ? I've always been so interested in that.
I think I'll keep that to myself because it actually isn't that rigorous at all.
Oh.
But I wish I could brag and say I wake up at 4 a.m., but that's not the truth. But back, if I would say in my prime or a few years ago when I was obviously competing at the highest level, the higher you go up in the rankings, the more difficult the competition has become. So when you qualify for the World Tour and you reach the World Tour, you lose more than you've ever lost in your life, obviously because the competition is unmatched. You have the top 10 surfers in the world. So it's the higher you go up, the more difficult it is to win. So most of the time, you don't feel like you're progressing at all. And then the rankings kind of come out at the end of the year and you're like, wow, I survived, how on earth? So I think, again, maybe the public has an idea that you're flying, you're progressing, and it's just one win after the next. But back at the ranch, it's loss after loss after loss after loss, and just persevering and kind of trying to and having people around you to speak positive ideas or positive or motivational ideas into your head. I think it's more that, because you are your worst enemy at that point. You're losing like 3 times a day for 9 months out of the year. So it really is. And then you have one lucky win, or you have a few and you don't even remember it because you've been losing so much, So the higher you do move up in the rankings, the more you lose and the harder it does become. So I think it's more perseverance that I can attribute that to than anything else.
Hey, you probably just saw the advert underneath you there. Is you might be good at surfing, but we're doing fantasy football. Your thoughts on fantasy football? You're going to join my fantasy football league. There's a prize for the winner. I know you like to win. Is that something you're going to get involved in?
I've been forced to watch football growing up for the whole 90 minutes because of the whole brother situation. And I actually played football for a little club when I was 9 years old. So I will join, but there's a big chance that I'll be stone lost. No, I was in the C team and our goalie actually kicked our own goal. So that's how good we were.
Good thing you know how to read the lines and catch the... Yeah, hey, good thing you know how to read the swell and catch the waves, huh? Catch the swell. It's all about the swell. I don't know if you know. Yeah. Yeah, it's all about the swells. You know what I mean? Got to catch you know what it's about? It's about those 8-footers. Hey, that 8-foot wall. I mean, the water can be glassy.
You're getting there. There's more practice.
Who's this guy? Who is this? It's just unbelievable, man. So listen, just want to wrap up on what you were saying. And I really like that you're talking about when you get to the top, you're losing more than ever. And I'm interested could you maybe give me one trait that you would say? Obviously, it's tough when you're in there competing with the other athletes. But is there one trait where, in hindsight, all of you shared? Do you need to have a kind of madness where you can ignore the world? Or what is that one trait that kept, let's call the top 25 of you? Because I'm pretty sure you kept seeing the same 20, 25 ladies all the time. What is it about you guys that maybe separated you from the rest? Were you able to do something and give yourself that edge somehow that the other ladies couldn't? Because there's a point when it's talent, but then that stops. There has to be something in your kop where you separate yourself.
One word: tenacity. That's what separates them. So you have to be tenacious, and and never take no or something for an answer. Yeah, that's what I would attribute it to, 100%.
Hey, listen, you're not on the tour anymore. Is there anybody on the tour who was just like a nightmare? That
No,
everybody knows is a nightmare?
Can't say that about anyone. Most of the girls, they're awesome girls. If I have to say so myself, they strong characters, strong personality, but have always been awesome towards each other. And for the 6 years that I was on tour, there was never ever a hiccup. So yeah, they're inspiring people, and then obviously athletes on top of that.
Hey, so when all of you like Illuminati sportsmen, people that are just 1%ers that we don't deserve to actually make eye contact with or hanging out, and it's just you and Roxy Berger and Travis Logie and all these guys, what are they like? What's Roxy Berger like? Was she somebody you looked up to? I mean, she was the kind of first one where we saw maybe from a glamour position that came out of South Africa, if I remember correctly. What's Roxy like? What do you guys chat about, huh? Just surfing big waves and avoiding sharks?
Amongst other things. So Roxy was actually a bit more involved in the lifestyle part of surfing, so the modeling and the brand and being a brand ambassador, etc. And I think she took off on that path big time and obviously reached massive success. But I think she was also a few years older than me, so we might have missed each other slightly in the local surfing scene. But she's actually also Afrikaans, so we did catch up. But,
yeah, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
But they're really like, just rad people. Most of them.
Rad.
All of them, 99%.
Rad. Rad. The surfers say rad. Yeah. Hey, rad. Totally stoked for you, dude. Sharker. You guys throw a sharker out there every now and then? Have you met Kelly Slater before?
Yeah. He was on the show with us, obviously, for a few years, yeah.
Oh, that is all. And what about Mick Fanning? He survived the shark.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You met him, huh? He didn't punch anyone in the nose, though? Because he punched that shark in the nose.
You did well. I'm impressed.
Yeah. He's done well. You survive a shark.
He's done well.
Man, that is awesome. That is, you know, this is like to talk to somebody who gets to kind of, and I'd imagine the inspiration you get from those guys must be awesome, and to be on that level. So I always ask people that are obviously 1%ers is, do you ever wake up and look in the mirror? Because I'm like I have no humility, right? Is if I ever did anything well, if I tie my shoelaces the first time, I praise myself for the whole day. Like, do you ever wake up and look in the mirror and go, you are so good. You are so good. It's unbelievable. Nobody should even make eye contact with me. Do you just wake up and just like, oh, you're a world champion? I would.
No, never, ever.
Oh, you
ever. I
guess you've been a.
I think you're awfully critical, actually, because obviously you need criticism to improve. So I feel like most of the time it's the opposite. You always kind of look for areas in which you can improve. And I think most people actually struggle with that. Yeah. So you're lucky.
Very true. What? I'm lucky that I'm terrible at stuff. That's good point. I've always said your expectations low. Yeah. Here's my tactic. Set my expectations low, never disappointed. Never ever disappointed. And then I'm always delivering. And my confidence is always high. Hey, I hear you, man. High standards. Let's talk about the Olympics. That's a pretty big deal, huh?
It is. So it was only, I think it's the first time that the Olympics, that surfing will be held at the Olympics in the history of the sport. So that's major. And then everything that goes with that is major as well.
Talk to me about training. Have you? I mean, when you were on the tour, what did your calendar look like? Maybe let's go back to that and we'll compare it to the Olympics. Talk me through. Okay, it's December 31st. We wrap it up. It's New Year's. Blah blah blah. The 6 guys from Victoria Bay have come down to parade themselves to you, see if they can marry you. It's New Year's. We do fireworks. It's now the 1st of January the next year. Talk me through a champion's lifestyle. What does it look like from the 1st of December until the next 31st of December? I mean, the 1st of January to the next 31st of December.
So January is normally the only month that we have off, so it's quite relaxed. You obviously do spend time in the water, but it's not as strenuous as it usually is. During events, that's when it gets quite exhausting. You would wake up most of the time 5 o'clock or earlier to try and be in the water before everyone else. As all athletes are trying to warm up, your options or your choices of catching waves are very limited. So you try and get in early, catch 2 or 3 waves. By that time, you'd already prepared your equipment. You've become confident and comfortable with the different tides and winds and swell sizes at the specific spot. And then you surf heats. So heats is the 20-minute or 25 minutes or 30-minute window in which you need to perform and generate scores, etc., etc. The week before the events, we try and do 3 sessions a day. So you would wake up, kind of stumble into the bathroom, put your bikini on, apply sunscreen.
Me too. Yeah. Bikini, sunscreen. So we have that in common as well. Yep.
Yeah. Brush your teeth and then head out. And then come back for breakfast, head out again, come back for lunch. And then obviously by that time you're so exhausted, you would catch power nap. And then the evening session again. And if you didn't surf at least 2 times or 1 or 2 times, then you would have to fit in a physical training, which I detest. So I made sure I was in the water 2 or 3 times a day. No, but obviously you had to kind of still be sure to do a sort, depending on obviously on your personality and how committed you want it to be, but just to prevent injuries and just kind of maintain a certain cardiac or a certain fitness level to accompany your talents in the water. So yeah,
you're shredding. You can't just shred all day, huh? You got to stabilize. So, and that's interesting because, surfing, skateboarding, the alternative sports have always been viewed as like, those, whatever those kids are doing down at the beach. But I think we've seen the evolution when we talk about Kelly Slater, we talk about these guys, is they sort of took it from, alternative sport to mainstream. Now it's a sport, it's a profession. How professional has it become now? Are guys, are you top guys traveling with a trainer and blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera? Do they surround you with a whole team, physios, chiros?
So it's become extremely professional. From what I understand, the previous generation was a bit more rock and roll. At the moment, there's almost none of it. Unfortunately, there is some. You do miss that kind of rock and roll spirit and that rebellious type of personalities that used to come with the sport, obviously. But now it's so professional that people just try their best to make their make their chances as big as possible. So they've got a physical trainer, they've got a surfing coach that helps with technique and strategy. They've got most of the time they've got some sort of nutritionist or at least a program. Then they've got obviously family and friends for emotional support. So they really do invest in the holistic or a multi-dimensional approach to make their performance, to give them every chance that they can get when performing. So it's not the old lifestyle of kind of arrive at the event hungover and go and surf your heat. It's years and years of preparation, whether it's coming from a diet perspective or from a fitness or a tactical or technical perspective. They really have the whole package, and it is very
incredible. Yeah, it is. I mean, the surf camps are popping up everywhere. We're seeing young kids paying thousands of dollars globally to go to these camps. I mean, it's a real thing now, and unlike many other sports, I mean, there's obviously the cool sports that obviously happen, but like surfing is a cool sport as well. It's like surfing, snowboarding. There's a few sports that are also sport, but also cool. Like surfing's cool, man. It's not like, I don't know, I hate to say it, like paddling. What do they call it? The bodyboarders. Get the hell out of town. Nobody wants to do that. Hey, I want to tell you a quick story about how the only surf lesson I ever had, Geordie Smith, Travis Logie tried to drown me, and I've never surfed again. Just telling you, like maybe you can tell them that they've lost a guy. They've lost a guy. That happened when I was 17 years old. That happened. So,
I would love to be a fly on the wall for that episode.
Wild, and a wild time, and I was a wild guy. So anyway, maybe it was because I have no coordination or whatever, but I blame them. So hey, 11 months a year, huh? If that's the calendar in surfing, 11 months a year.
It is.
That is brutal. That's like having a full-time girlfriend. That is brutal stuff. That is absolutely brutal. Hey, listen, as you said that word, I choked up a little bit. Commitment. By the way, I heard you say multi-dimensional just now. Your parents did not waste money sending you to an English school. Some of that good stuff carried over, huh?
I try and whip out the good vocab on radio interviews like this.
Like I'm doing now. Gnarly, dude. Gnarly.
Exactly.
Hey, let's wrap up Tokyo. Listen, you've been amazing, man. And on a very serious level, you are an inspiration because, you could have, I guess, with your connections now, with the way you were in the sport, your position, you could have easily gone to live in Hawaii, live in Australia. I'm sure these type of connections would have come up, but you've chosen to stay here. And I want to talk a little bit to you about why, but let's wrap up the Olympic conversation. Olympics is a serious story. I mean, for anybody to be an Olympian, just to be at that level, what is your approach? Obviously, we had the pandemic. That is what it is. C'est la vie, as you'll be saying pretty soon, huh? Like that. It's a little French lesson for you if you want to keep your current relationship going. C'est la vie.
C'est la vie. Excuse for everything.
Yeah, c'est la vie. There it is. Such is life. But now we're in that business end, right? Tokyo is real now. I think. They've had some positive conversations. Are you behaving as though it's happening? Talk to me about your approach over the next sort of 6 to 8 months as you prepare. How are you feeling mentally? What is your approach?
So the pandemic happened, which gave me much more time to prepare, which I'm grateful for. Obviously not for the situation, but for the time that it has created. So Tokyo is in July, so we still have a few months. I would say, September already? Jeepers, it's going quick. So we've got 9 or 10 months. And from a preparations point of view, I think I'm currently trying to invest in physical exercise. So I'm going to training twice a week and then trying to spend as much time in the water as possible. I think in the beginning, especially so far in advance from an event, you just try and maintain the current physical state that you're in, and try not to become too much of a stranger to your equipment and your routines, etc. And obviously it'll jump up a notch once it gets closer to go time.
Wow. So we are locked. So we're dialing it in. And then, so when do you start to really because I've seen how champions behave when it's competition time. Is it like 2-3 months out, then you really start to lock in, or do you try and stay relaxed and kind of cool all the way through?
I would say 3 months, maybe just because of the Olympics, stretch it to 4 months. But previously in my career, I would say 6 weeks in advance, I lock it in big time. But I think just because it's that big of an event, I would lock it in 3.5 months in advance. But obviously put in the long yards before that, but just really get down to the wire 3 months in advance.
3 months, huh? That's game time. 90 days. I love that kind of stuff. I love high performance, just human beings. And so now, are you going to head over early? Are you thinking of heading over there early? How long would you say it would take? Obviously, you want to be as comfortable as possible. You're going to Japan, different culture, different food. You got to, are you going to head over a little bit earlier, or you're just going to go with the team when everybody heads over?
So I will. I like going well in advance, just to kind of familiarize myself firstly to the climate, and obviously the jet lag does take its time to work off. I have luckily I've been to Japan a few times, so I kind of know what I'm getting myself into. But specifically, just to figure out that exact spot where they have chosen to run the event. So make sure equipment does take a while to work through. So I would give myself 2 weeks at least just to work through all the variables that I can kind of establish before heading into the event. Yeah.
That's so interesting. So even a world-class surfer like yourself, how long would you say it will take you to get there and adjust to conditions? I mean, obviously, different types of year, the sea behaves differently. But when you get there, even for you guys, how long does it take you to really dial in? I mean, you're obviously lines, what to expect, how often the waves are gonna produce enough quality for your heat. How long does it take even you guys at the top to really feel comfortable, no matter where you are, Hawaii, Brazil, Tokyo in this case?
So I would say a week to be safe.
Wow.
Obviously, jet lag is a major player. Like it ruins your day most of the time, especially the first couple of days. You can't perform in any way. You really get shattered.
Great. All right, folks. Gremlins in the system, huh? And it wasn't down in George. It was actually in the big city of Johannesburg and Cape Town, where all the problems were. Thank you for sticking with us. Listen, we got the champ for a little bit. We're gonna get to it. Her Olympic process is nuts. I mean, even for the top guys, it takes a week to prepare, huh, Bianca? I mean, that is absolutely wild scenes. But talk to me. Listen, Bianca, thanks so much. By the way, sorry about that. Even the big city has problems, huh? I mean, you've got a tree. We got our own problems here. We got TikTok, but I mean, we can barely keep. We all have our challenges.
Up, yeah.
Hey, I'm telling you, it's a crazy world. Too much data flowing around. So before we wrap up and take questions, I just wanted to get to two things, and thank you so much for being so gracious with your time. I wanted to just speak a little bit about obviously the Olympics, and I've heard you saying a couple of times when I was competing. It seems to me like you are now transitioning to a different phase in your career. Talk to me about. Of course, I read recently that you've got the Accelerate Sport partnership, so I'd like to hear what your thoughts are and how you see that going. But where's your career going now after the Olympics?
So I felt like I put in and kind of established the potential that I felt that I had. So I'm very excited to kind of transition into a different season of my life. I've actually had it in mind for a few years, so it's taken a while to kind of step out in confidence. But partnering with Accelerate is mainly just to get some sort of guidance and support regarding brands, etc., going to the Olympics. And the next season of my life will obviously start after that event's done. After I'd represented South Africa and experienced that whole 2 weeks in Tokyo. So. But I am looking into going to. I've actually already started on a small scale. Started into going to property development. So that's something that my family's been involved in for a few generations. So I'm kind of taking the baton and running with it. And it's exciting. It's fresh and new. Like it feels like I am 14 and going on my first international trip. So very excited for that.
Hey, I got to be honest with you. I do have a little bit of envy. There's a little bit of me that hates you because you're not just a world-class surfer, but you're also a grad, a BSc, finance and accounting grad, huh?
Yeah, I decided to do that quite early on in the surfing career because we had a lot of downtime and I had to keep my head busy. So it really did challenge me or stimulate me in a different sense. So I was very grateful for that opportunity. and I'm very
Wow.
grateful to have finished it eventually. It took me a while doing it part-time, but it's done.
You're breaking every stereotype in the book, huh? Afrikaans conservative, hey, get the hell out of town. I'm going to English primary school. Marry Frikkie, get the hell out of town. I'm getting a French guy. Hey, I'm a surfer. I'm not an idiot either. I'm going to do a finance BSc. That is, you have lived, man. You're just a champion across the border. I am so happy for you. And talk to me if there's any young ladies out there who are thinking, and listen, we all live with family pressures. You know, we all come from whatever family background we come from. But if there are people watching this, and there's a young lady who loves surfing, who loves snowboarding, who loves whatever it may be, trail running, you know, the sports that we don't consider traditional or ways to make money. What's your message to those families? Because I think, you know, we still live in a rather sort of family and rather patriarchal sort of society where we are in South Africa. We're quite similar and homogenous in that sense. What is your message to, number one, those girls who have the dream to be the next you, Olympics, and who knows, maybe we can keep you flying the flag. But what is your message to those young girls and those families where there is a passionate girl and she doesn't love netball, she doesn't love it?
Process. I would say, firstly, just to be honest with yourself. In that sense, if you're into it, be into it. If you're out of it, be honest with yourself in that sense. If you're not enjoying it, be honest with yourself in that sense. And then be honest to those around you, to your parents, to those who you consider to be part of your inner circle. Just honesty, really. And to the families, I would say, whatever your child chooses or whatever, so whether it's sport, whether it's not even a sport, I mean, whether it's other interests, just to try and share it with her or with him. Because there is really a platform to grow in a relationship, whether it's with your child or your sister or your brother, in sharing their passion. So whether it's a sport or a completely different interest, take the opportunity to share.
Hey, great thing you just said there is that inner circle, huh? Do you have to manage that really carefully, especially when you get to the top? Because we see you on billboards, we see you on TV, and there's certain people that don't always have the best intentions, I'd imagine, that may have come to you. How did you manage that? I mean, I love what you said there, and this is useful in life in general, is how do you keep that inner circle, the people that'll tell you the truth when you need to hear it, right? I'd imagine you need some of those, but the people that want your best intentions as well as with somebody like you is, okay, I'm seeing her on the podium, money, power, I want that. How have you managed that inner circle, and what advice would you give to youngsters? What kind of inner circle should you be trying to have to be a champion?
So the inner circle would generally just consist out of people that have your best interests at heart, and not necessarily your careers or your obviously it translates into financial, etc., but yeah. just to know what's best for you at that point, whether it's to pull out in the peak of your career and they would support it, whether it's to change direction completely and go into another industry or another interest, they would support it. So someone that loves you for who you are and sees your best interest before any benefit. Otherwise, I would say you can consider them for your inner circle, but it usually consists out of blood or family, because obviously they've seen you grow up and they know you better than anyone. And then those who are not family do take a while to creep in or do establish themselves as one of the people that you can rely on and whose opinion you can trust.
Hey, I love that, man. I love that. And it's something people need to hear is, unfortunately, we live in a world where sometimes not everybody has the best intentions. That inner circle is crucial. They'll be honest with you. They'll make sure you're honest with yourself. So that's an awesome message. And some of the outreach work you're doing, I saw, I was having a scroll through your, what we call, I forget you live in Vic Bay, is we don't call it social media anymore. I was looking through your socials. Socials. We say socials. Yeah, when you come to the big city, just remember, don't say social media. You say, I'm on the socials.
I just got the hang of social media. Now you're changing the name. Cheapers.
Yeah, and now there's TikTok. And now, anyway, sorry, one thing at a time. I was looking through your socials, And I saw some of your outreach work. You took a break from social media. You were doing some community work. Talk to me. I mean, we were talking just before we got on here about a community project where you are. Talk us through what you're doing there and how anybody who's interested could help.
So I am very proud to share as much information as I can about Life Community Services. So I've been involved since I was at school, so it must have been 10 years already. I know the founders and leadership very, very well. And they consist of multiple sectors. They've got a pre-primary school, they've got a primary school, they've got aftercare, they've got a feeding scheme, they've got some sort of sustainable business model. So have a look on their website. It's called Life Community Services, and find out more information. It's in George, so it's just 10 minutes from my house. I'm involved weekly or daily at some stages, and we're just in the process of building a rugby field and starting some type of sporting curriculum. So if you can help us, if anyone's got extra grass lying at home, just send it this way so we can get the field going. But any support, prayer, financials, anything would help.
So that website, again, we will put it in the description. Life Services.
Life Community Services. I'm not sure exactly what the URL is, but it should come up on Google.
Hey, don't worry about it. Once again, this is, I'm teaching you now is obviously when this stream stops, it doesn't end, because probably when there's a tree in the way of fiber, you probably think, oh no, this is going to end like radio and then it's finished. This is going to live forever. What we're going to do is we're going to put it in the description. So look below, people, if you want to come and support the champ and all the great work she's doing in George. Hey, 5 minutes from the airport. George is like the size of my palm. Tiny. It's like living a different life. Listen, let's get into it. You're unbelievable. There's a few questions. You've got lots of admiring people. Do you mind? We've taken so much of your time. Do you mind taking some questions with us?
Of course, I didn't mind at all.
All right, Dave, let's see what we've got for the champ. You're unbelievable, by the way. Your story is just unbelievable. And I love how passionate you are about South Africa. We'll finish off with that. It's just so cool. Dave, what we got? This is Gareth Cliff, by the way, just so you know. That's Gareth Cliff. You're probably wondering who that is.
Hi, Gareth.
It's Gareth Cliff. Susie Husselman says, why would you encourage young girls to take up this sport?
So this sport is one of the only sports that exists or happens in a changing environment. So you're constantly fighting against the elements and obviously other things. But it's a sport in which you need to weigh up your variables and you need to kind of make instant decisions. And I guess it does have a reflection of life where you are never in control of any occasion, really. And you kind of accommodate or adapt. And also you are obviously surrounded by nature if you look up, down, left, right, you're completely surrounded. So it's more a therapy than it is anything else, to be honest with you. So, and I think many young girls do need that safe space or a space in which they feel free and that they can. It's also a type of creative, a type of canvas in which you can draw your own lines and not have any criticism or judgment on it. So, for many reasons, I do encourage for young girls to take it up.
That's awesome. Dave, what's next? Coco Wax says, Bianca, what's the best break you've ever surfed? If I were to plan a surf trip with my girlfriend, where should we be heading? That's Coco Wax.
So I am a big Coco Wax. I am a big fan of surf spots in South Africa, mainly because firstly, they're so close and you can get there on any budget. Secondly, they have no people. So most popular surf spots in the world are jam-packed. They've got 40, 50, up to 400 people in the water trying to kind of do the same thing you are. So in South Africa, it's very uncrowded, very underrated. And if it was up to me, I would jump in the car and just head up the coast, west or east, either or. But
hey,
come to the garden.
You surfers like to be secret with your spot, huh? You don't like. I know it's a bit of a thing in the surfing community, though. You don't give out your special little places. I know how. Listen, I'm in the catching left-handers, shredding the glassy water and all that. I know how it goes. I know it goes. The garden route, you say, huh?
Come to the garden route. Yeah, we've got options here, and it's beautiful in and out of the water.
All right. Well, there you have it. West Coast Wonder says, I remember when your typical surfer was just a goofed up hippie. Now it's widely regarded as and respected as respected pro sport at the Olympics. When did this start changing, and what's it like to be a part of it? Great question.
So it started changing, I would say, kind of during my generation, maybe the generation before, towards the tail end of their generation and the start of mine. When I first started doing the qualifying series, there was still a bit of that atmosphere and individual, but not much, to be honest with you. It wasn't the overpowering kind of vibe. It was more a few individuals, but it transitioned really quickly. I think when one person saw that it was working, and that the person that was following a more professional lifestyle was really kind of reeling in the results, then they made that transition really, really fast.
Hey, Kelly Slater left Sheryl Crow for surfing. You got to know how good it is. I mean, I'm just telling you what happened. So the surfing, they must have some serious pull. It must have serious pull. Sheryl Crow, still looking good. Dave, what's next? Green Girl says, glamour and women's surfing. That's a hard topic. Too blue crushy, women who look good versus women who surf good. Now, we did kind of touch on it. Roxy served a certain element and was extremely successful in her own right. You're what you are. I mean, everybody can Google exactly how you've crushed, and we're up to number 4 on planet Earth at a stage on the tour. So what do you think of that? Because, there's obviously, it's not like men's surfing in the sense that we still live in a world where women have that element of beauty as well. And there's that side of it. What do you think of that glamour side of surfing and then what we might call a lifestyle versus being a hardcore, actually a shredder, if you will?
So I feel women who surf well, or women that excel in sport, do have a confident aroma around them, and they have very strong personalities. And I think that in its own right makes someone beautiful. Having no I don't know how to say it in English, but to have no excuses, or to have have no excuses for being most women that excel in sport get it right. But obviously there's a bit
sorry,
of
we lost you there. You said no excuses for? Sorry, we didn't catch that part.
No excuses for being who they are. So to not please explain about any type of behavior, or just being themselves outright, alongside their strong personalities, and not apologizing for it. I think that brings a different type of beauty into it. But glamour might be a word that I'm not too familiar with, and wouldn't be able to leave too many comments around. But I do see, from all the girls that I meet in the water, there definitely is a beauty attached, and an independence attached to girls who surf.
So what do you think of that side, that sex appeal, lifestyle side, as opposed to, do you think there's room for both? There's you guys. No, go ahead.
I guess there is, but I just get a bit upset when I do see that sensual kind of sex appeal thing selling, and I know there's young girls kind of looking at that, or scrolling, or being exposed to it, and kind of excusing their personalities in the search of that glamour, or I don't know what you want to call it. But I would really like to see less sex appeal or sensual kind of advertising and more authentic, strong-willed women getting the exposure.
Interesting conversation. Yeah, I think that's a great question, by the way. Great question. Dave, what we got next? Susie Hilseman again says, I coach a kid who loves surfing. I don't want to kill his dreams to one day get on the QS, but the reality is that most kids aren't going to cut it at that level. What is your advice?
I see that a lot, Susie, and it is tough. I mean, I think I'm not sure about the guys, but I think 6 girls qualify every year. So that means 60 girls will qualify in 10 years. And then some kids are convinced that they've got a shot. But I feel like it's not your place to tell them they do or they don't, but rather let them figure it out themselves. And sport or surfing specifically isn't a means to an end. You learn about life, you learn about hiccups, you learn about obstacles, about success, etc. during the process. So it's not that if you don't qualify, you've wasted your time. If you don't qualify, then you've learned all these other lessons. You just haven't ended up on the tour. So I would say let them realize it themselves, but try and be supportive, especially if it's your kid. Show unconditional love and support, because you'll do more damage if you don't.
It's good stuff here. You should get into psychology, huh? Lee Holmes says, current favorite women's surfer on the tour in SA, and what's the depth of women's surfing in SA? Your thoughts?
Again, I'm a bit thrown into the deep end in this sense because I haven't been in South Africa for a long time.
Big time, hey? Whoa! You've gone big time on us. Dating a French guy. You don't even see us anymore. Wow. Okay, wow.
That's not true.
No, it is not true.
A pandemic has to happen for travel schedules to come to an end. So
wow.
I do see a lot more girls in the water, so that's big bonus. But from a talent pool and name dropping, I unfortunately I'm a bit out of my depths in that aspect. But I trust that the opportunities I'd been given as a kid are definitely still present for those young and up and coming.
There you have it. David, what is next? Shark Biscuit. Shark Biscuit says, what do you think of Gabriel Madiena? He has taken a lot of flack in the last while.
So I'm actually a big fan of Gabriel. He's quite soft-spoken in a private setting, not so much in the public eye. But I do feel as world-class athletes, you do need to have some sort of tenacity, and sometimes it does come across as being arrogant or blah, blah, blah. But I'm a big fan. I think privately he does intend well, but to stay on the top of your game and to compete at that level, you do need tenacity, which can translate into something that might not be seen as people want it to be seen.
Hey, give us some context. Give us the scoop. What's going on there with Mr. Madiena?
No, so obviously there's some tactics in surfing that are a bit have less integrity than others, but okay. Yes, but obviously it needs to happen to win the heat. And I think he might have been involved in a few, but obviously I'm not going to get into it. I don't know the details. I'm just saying a lot of times
you're just saying what's happening.
Need to bite the bullet and tactically make the best decision.
Winning's not for everybody, people. Winning's not for everybody. Listen, I don't want to put you in a position because I understand what you're saying. Winning's not for everybody. And listen, I've said it before on this show. Winning's an ugly business. And people don't want to talk about that. And you didn't say it. I said it. Winning can be an ugly business. I don't know the story, but hey, winners win. Lefika Morobe says, absolutely loving this interview. So great to hear from elite athletes and realize that no matter the difference in the sport, there is a common thread within the elites. And I have to agree. And you said it, right? The tenacity. I don't care if you're Cristiano Ronaldo, you, whoever. It's one thing getting to the top. Staying to the top is at the top. As you said, what's 6 girls a year?
6 what?
6 girls a year qualify, huh?
Yep, and most of them requalify from the tour. So there's only 2 or 3 or 4 that actually qualify. So
all right. So it's just Apex. Apex characters there. Don't come with your weak sauce. No weak sauce. No weak sauce. We don't do that on the WSL tour. Leave that weak sauce at home. Dave, what we got? We got about 5 more minutes if that's all right, and then we will let you go. So many questions. People are loving you, understandably. What we got next, David? J Bay D says Dawny or Sunset Mission. That's
as
more
I told you before, Dawny
Shaka, dude.
Obviously
Shaka.
break of dawn.
In the dawn. Yeah, Shaka, dude.
I'm not much of a morning person, so I think that's inevitable that I'm gonna revert to the sunset. No, but in all honesty, I really enjoy that last hour and a half of sunlight. That's probably the most of a routine that I have to make sure I get out in the water just before dark.
That golden hour, huh?
Mm.
Very nice. David, so not a Dawny, Dave. We don't do Dawnies around here. All righty. Hey, chap, you've been amazing. We'll finish off on this. And before I take this last question, thank you so much. You're absolutely incredible. We'll finish off on this question. Davo is love. I think we should make a movie, Big Shot Media, women surfers who have brothers who surf. So many examples of greatness. Kamala and Andre Borta, ex-world boogie champ. Me and my brother, strand champs. So, hey, is this like Blue Crush 5 or 7? How many of them made of those? Maybe we can make a Blue Crush 5. We bring it down there. Maybe we get the Dwomini involved from Vic Bay. I mean, give it a real South African twist. You know what I'm saying? Like the Dwomini who doesn't want his daughter surfing, but then she's the best in the world, and then she meets a French guy, and I don't know, hypothetically, I
don't underestimate the Dwomini. He's probably in the water as well for some therapy.
Hey, shredding it up. Talk to me about your love for South Africa. Why have you not left this fine country yet? We have our problems, but you seem to keep coming back. You could be anywhere, and it does scare me a little bit that you are dating Mr. Mon Ami, whatever his name may be. It concerns me that you may leave us, but you are still here. You are still here, and you're still with us. What?
I'm reeling them in.
Yeah,
I'm head of marketing.
I like that. Great pitch. Listen, a bit of marketing talk. Now I can get it to you. It's just important that we all synergize and get on the same page, because we're facing a new normal. That's the type of marketing crap I hear, by the way, every day. It's absolutely terrible. So talk to me about South Africa, and what does it mean to you? Why are you always coming back? What draws you back, man? Because you could be living anywhere.
I am the biggest fan of South Africa. I think it's probably the first thing that comes up in a conversation with any foreigners. Have you been to South Africa? You should come, blah, blah, blah. Reason for it is there's a very negative kind of vibe here. People are always encouraging to go out of the country, go to a first world, blah, 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 blah. First worlds also have their issues, and they've got a lot of disadvantages. I mean, all the rules and stuff that you have to stick to, and the tax. I mean, there's countless things that I can go on about. I've been to all of them. I've been to over 30 countries, and I'm not going anywhere. If I can never get on an international flight again in my life, I would be thankful. I am planning on covering this country every square meter. So you won't see me in an international terminal. The furthest I'll go is Botswana or Mozambique, but that's the limit for me. Big South African fan. Would love to. I'm not going anywhere, to be honest with you, and I'm trying to reel people in as quick as possible. But I think most South Africans think it's only this country that has issues, but they should check again.
Hey, let's go. Let's go, champ. You are the best. You made us so proud internationally. You're staying here. Man, number one, from me to you, I'm so proud of you. Number one, I'm proud to be associated with you because when you carry the South African flag, you take me with you. And what you've done at this level. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, she's only 26. Like, she's talking like this is the beginning. She's now going into 27th year of life. She's going to bring back an Olympic gold medal from Tokyo. This won't be the last time you see her. We're going to definitely have you back. You're unbelievable. I'm proud of you. South Africa's proud of you. And whatever it takes next year, right? We're behind you. Win, lose, draw. You're the one. You're the one. Thank you so much, champ. And hey, enjoy that fiber and TikTok when it gets down there eventually.
When I'm 36.
Hey, what did they say on that renovation show? Move that tree. That's what you guys have to say. And the big reveal is when the fiber arrives in George. Quite incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Bianca Buitendag. Thank you so much, Bianca. You're a legend. Yeah, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, thank you. You have a good one. You be well. An absolute legend. They must love her down in Vic Bay. That is the way you do it, man. You represent, you keep it real. Hey, I've been on the world tour. I got to keep it real. That's why she's a champ. You heard her. Inner circle, keep it real. Not only do you have to be honest with those around you, most importantly, she said, be honest with yourself. She's been at the top for 10 years. We're talking about 4 or 5 girls per year get into that inner circle. She stayed there for 10 years. Wunderkind, 17, world champ, stayed there for 10 years. Keep the inner circle tight, people. Keep it real. We've got a world champ and loves this country, so that is even better. Ladies and gentlemen, for tonight, this has been, for the very first time, the MKT Show. I look forward to seeing you on the morrow.